Hello everyone, I'm Alex. I work for BBC News Labs in London. Very quickly to explain what BBC News Labs is, we are a team in the BBC that kind of sits between our news teams and our technical teams, and the idea is that we kind of speak to journalists and we speak to users, and we combine what we find out with kind of knowledge of technical systems and combine it with all the latest cool things like AI and big data and chatbots and voice user interfaces, and produce awesome news magic. So we've been working with kind of transcription technology in several different projects for quite a few years now. So I'm going to tell you a bit about what we've done, and then about a couple of kind of components that have come out of that work that you can use. So this all kind of started with the development of our own kind of in-house speech-to-text engine. So I wasn't actually involved in this. There was a different team within the BBC that worked on this. But what they did is they took the open source Cowdy speech-to-text framework, and that I don't entirely understand how that works. I believe it's a kind of collection of kind of scripts written in various different languages by different academics from all over the world that as a body can be used to create a speech-to-text engine, but kind of isn't something that you can just pick up and start using straight away. And crucially, one of the things that you need to be able to start using it is a model, and it doesn't come with a model. You have to kind of create or provide your own. So what the team did is they created a recognition model that was trained on a large body of BBC content. So that content you have to have transcribed already, and then you kind of feed it in and it does some magic, and eventually at the end it is able to recognize speech in new content that you feed it. And they also took this kind of mess of scripts and packaged it so that you can easily deploy it and use it from the command line. So the result of this is, after the training, the model actually works really, really well when we feed it kind of more similar content. So I guess BBC content is often like clearly pronounced and has good audio. So when we feed it more of that, it's kind of at least as good as the commercial services that you might have to pay for, if not better in some cases. It's also free, so aside from the initial kind of investment in building it, there's no kind of cost for us to use it apart from the compute, which is great because we can throw absolutely tons of stuff at it and it doesn't really matter. So, as I said, I wasn't really involved in building this, but speaking to the guys that did, one thing that they're kind of keen to stress is that this wasn't actually that hard. The biggest investment is this the input for the training, but if you are in a media organization that sits on a kind of body of content that you have kind of transcribed in some form already, you might actually be able to use that as the basis for training it, and then save a lot of money in the long run by not having to pay for commercial services. If you have any questions about that specifically, I can probably pass them on to the people who know more about that. I think it's really interesting, but I don't really know anything about it. So with that technology, the first thing in my team that we tried to do with it was solve this problem of kind of discovery in our production archives. So in the BBC we have some kind of huge production content systems that ingest thousands of hours of video and audio every day from outside kind of feeds from agencies, from journalists in the fields, from kind of recordings of broadcast output. And these sit in these big kind of databases. And the problem is that the metadata describing this content is often very poor. A journalist filing a clip that they've recorded will often only put in the bare minimum that they need to be able to go and find it for their own use later, without kind of describing what the clip is actually about in a way that is useful to anyone else. So that means that 6 months down the line, if someone wants to pull up a clip of a particular person being interviewed, for example, it can be really difficult. So as an attempt to solve this problem, we started taking a feed of content coming into these systems and running it through the speech-to-text system to get a transcript out. And then with that transcript, we used an entity extraction engine to kind of match entities that are mentioned in the text to DBpedia entities, and then built an interface on top of the results of that to let you kind of filter content by entities as well as the kind of the text in the transcript. It's not really specific to DBpedia. That's just a kind of a source of kind of entities that you could use, but if you have your own linked data, kind of curated set of linked data entities, you could just as easily use that as well. So this is what the interface looked like. It's called Window on the Newsroom. So the crucial thing is these tags. So you can see underneath the video, those are all of the entities that have been detected, pulled out from the transcript of that video. And then I've constructed a search filtered by Kanye West and New York, and then Jupiter Video, which is the particular kind of content archive. So this was a kind of interesting experiment. We put it in front of a bunch of journalists, and they kind of said, "Oh, that's nice," but it seemed like it was a bit too much of a leap from what they were used to, so it didn't really get a great amount of take-up. But one thing that did come out of this is when you click on a result, it takes you to a page where you can watch the video, and it shows you the transcript that we generated. And they kind of looked at that and said, "Oh, is that the transcript?" That's really useful because there's a huge number of people in kind of editorial roles in the BBC for whom creating a transcript is a part of their workflows. And the kind of current way that a current way that a lot of them do that is just manual. They'll sit there and spend hours and hours and hours transcribing video, or pay a lot of money. There's a team that produces a kind of nightly TV show, and they send their kind of rushes to Australia so that it can be transcribed overnight UK time at great expense, and then sent back, and it's kind of ready for the morning. So they were really interested in just getting access to these transcripts, even though they're slightly kind of errorful. So this is the interface. It literally just had a kind of search box that let you stick in an ID from our content asset management system and pull up the transcript, and then similar to other players that we've seen today, let you kind of navigate through the video by clicking on words in the transcript. So kind of beyond just kind of generating transcripts and analyzing them and looking at them, we've now started looking at, or kind of thinking about, using transcripts as the basis for kind of editing and repurposing and creating new media. So the kind of general vision with this is we take media from our production archives, be it video for TV or audio for radio. We kind of suck it all in via some mechanism, and then we have a number of different kind of analysis steps. So at the moment we're focusing on transcription, but we're also interested in, as has been mentioned earlier today, things like image recognition and speaker ID and face detection, and then collecting back all the results of those, and then having a kind of suite of tools that make use of those results to let you kind of create new content based on the original content. So things like generating subtitles, clipping down videos based on the transcript, and then using results of that to kind of push out the results in formats that are appropriate for different platforms. So in this space, we've currently got one tool that allows you to basically just subclip based on a transcript. The use case being if you go out and shoot a long video of an interview, in a lot of cases, there might just be like one kind of snippet that you're interested in that you want to push online where the person being interviewed said that incendiary thing. So an interface to let you just find that in the text and hit a button, and then as it's all plumbed into the our kind of publishing pipelines, you can instantly push it out to the different formats. We've also been playing around with integrating some of this technology into the open source WMYC audiogram tool. So I'm going to, I think, show off a bit of that tomorrow, but that kind of fits into this vision as well. So in terms of some things that we've created as part of this work, one thing that was useful was a way of kind of passing around transcripts between different tools in a kind of reliable format in a way that we could kind of reason about. So I spent a little bit of time looking at trying to find an existing kind of format for representing transcripts that was kind of well specified and couldn't really find one. So I created something really, really simple that just has a kind of concept of you have transcript made up of segments, segment is made up of words, and segment also has a speaker, and then words have start and end times. And then to be able to use this in the various projects, created a kind of JavaScript set of kind of model classes based on immutable JS records, which are nice if you're in the kind of React ecosystem and you can kind of diff between different objects really quickly. And there's also a JSON serialization that's defined by a JSON schema, which lets you kind of pass things over a network or in files and then make sure that they conform. So as I said, it is really, really simple. I'm not claiming that this is a kind of, I don't know, it's going to solve everyone's problems, but the fact that it's kind of well specified and you can kind of reason about these things in a semantic way has been useful to us. And it's open source and you can find it at that address. So this is kind of what it looks like. It's just an array of speakers, each has a name, and then an array of segments, and a speaker ID that references an index in the array of speakers, and then an array of word objects that start and end and text. Got a few ideas about potential improvements. So in cases where you might have timing that isn't word level, but is a bit coarser than word level, a way of representing that. So decoupling the timing from the kind of content of the words is a potential improvement, as well as handling things like confidence in words that you get from a lot of engines. And the next thing I mentioned already is a kind of browser-based editor that lets you pull in a transcript and correct all of the mistakes that have come out of the transcription process, but still maintain the timing. So this is implemented as a React component, and it uses the Draft.js library that Facebook released. And what's nice about it is it, like, for the most part, just behaves like a regular text editor. Like, from the user's perspective, like, unless you're kind of exposing transcript-related things, unless you have some interface elements like a kind of a timeline or highlighting of the words, like, they probably wouldn't even realize that they're editing a transcript with the timings. They can just click in and start typing and navigating using the mouse and the cursor. They don't have to kind of learn anything new. And then it does all of the reconciling of what to do with the timings based on the edits behind the scenes. So that's open source as well. It's pretty horrible. It's like very much like alpha, pre-alpha quality code, but it does kind of work, and it was an interesting experiment. And we're using it in a couple of our tools as well. So I can give you a quick demo of what that looks like. This is like a speeded up recording of correcting a transcript. So in combination with some keyboard shortcuts to play and pause and kind of navigate through the video, it lets you be quite productive in terms of producing a perfect transcript. You probably get the idea. There's a couple of things it doesn't do. There's a lot of kind of edge cases that it doesn't handle. Like, as I found out in creating this that there's all these kind of keyboard shortcuts that I didn't know about for manipulating text that like swap characters or shift bits of words to different places, and it kind of freaks out if you happen to press any of those. It also doesn't account for when the speech-to-text engine hasn't detected any words, which sometimes happens if, I don't know, if there's quiet or background noise. There's no way of kind of going in and inserting new words where it doesn't think there are any. So I think there would be some kind of more interesting user interface, kind of UX-y kind of solution kind of thinking needed there. But yeah, that's some of the work that we and I have been doing, and a few of the things we produce. If anyone's interested or has comments about those components or wants to contribute, that'd be great. Thanks. Questions?
What were the shortcuts that you mentioned, the strange ones? Is that part of the Draft.js editor, or was that?
As far as I could tell, it was just like built in to the operating system.
Oh, right.
And I couldn't find a way of kind of disabling them in Draft.js. Like in Draft.js, there are some things that you can, like events that you can detect and prevent, but these ones I couldn't figure out how to do.